We are back in Madison, probably.
Hopefully, we better be.
Yeah.
It'll be September 8th for you. It's still September 6th for us. It's the year 2022. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is episode 615.
It's 615. Yeah, that's Nashville's area code. And you know what else it is?
The 615, right? Weird. What's that?
There's a fantastic supper club in Beloit, Wisconsin called the 615. I think it's a 615. It's been around forever. Supper clubs, man. That's where it's at.
Old supper club. But we better be in Madison. We're pre-recording this because both of you, if we're not there by Thursday, shit's gone down. But we're doing a little pre-record since both of us will be up in Madison, Wisconsin. Mike's doing the full Ironman on the 11th. I'm going to be hopping in and doing the 70.3 on the 10th. We hope to see a lot of you down there. It's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a few options in the Triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We also do race previews and recaps. But for the most part, Mike and I as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, both as human beings, but on this planet, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We'll also talk a lot about what our own athletes are going through. We both work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking to do their very first 5K or even sprint, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to Kona, and everyone in between, and from all over the globe. And we'll frequently use the feedback loop we have with them, training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also have a Facebook group. It's a lively bunch. You can search that again on Facebook. Answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. Great people in there. Awesome community. So be a part of it. Don't be a lurker. Be a part of the population, and give some good feedback. If you have questions, ask them. It's seriously great people, seasoned veterans, beginners, everyone in between. They've probably seen it, done it, and made that mistake, and they can prevent you from making the same. So again, go in there and participate in what is a really awesome community. And we will periodically go in there and do a little bit of a Q&A, but that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have an agenda. And that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, it's working for me, man.
It's working for you. Well, that's all that matters, man. If it's working for you, it's working for me. It's hopefully working for you as well.
4 days, man. And 3 days for you from this podcast.
3 days, yeah.
And 4 days. And I got to say, man, I'm proud of something that I've done during this training.
What's that? You feel I feel you're gonna surprise me or shock me or put me on the.
No. It's nothing. But I just thought of it today. Actually, I haven't weighed myself at all during this training, and let me tell you, there are plenty of options at my Boca del Vista workout club. There's a lot of scales down there, man. Sure they're all about the scales. And I'm like, bro, yeah. So. Yeah, I've looked at it. I looked at it about 2 months ago, and I'm like, I don't know if that's just, I don't want to know. I just want to feel strong.
Pressure, man.
Yeah, and then today, like my last day down there before I'm heading to Madison, I looked at it, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to roll with the punch. Yeah.
The scale is, for most people, is widely overrated, and adds too much pressure and unhealthy obsession. I mean, honestly, it's too much for most people, and most people undereat. In my experience, when they're Ironman training, they don't eat enough to fuel what they're trying to do. So yeah, good for you, man. I'm proud of you for not. I can't say that I've been as rigid in my abstinence from the scale, but I will say that I weighed myself to start kind of this block, and then I got a little too religious on the scale and found myself getting super frustrated that the needle wasn't moving. And so I stopped daily checking it or even weekly checking it. And then yesterday I hopped on and I dropped 8 pounds. Because honestly, I think the stress of trying to lose weight was causing me to retain. weight. Obviously, there's a lot of science on stress and the cortisol. It raises your cortisol levels, and you restrict too much, then you eat too much. And I decided, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to work out. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to try and eat as well as I can. I'm going to stick to my basics and then see what happens. And so am I the last I've ever been? No, but I feel good. And honestly, that's all that matters, right? Is that if you feel good, then you race good. And that's usually how it is. So yeah, stay away from the scale, especially on race week. And for God's sake, don't pack it with you. Don't bring it to fucking Madison, because
scales.
Don't bring that. They got pizza, cheese curds, get everything you want to Madison. So don't do it. Go out to eat, enjoy yourself, and but yeah, stay away from the scale. It's funny that we segued into going out to eat, because that's kind of where we're going today. No, our podcast topic today is not going to be about whining and dining on race week, but it is going to be about controlling your controllables. This last weekend, it's kind of a personal story, I guess, but the more I thought about it, the more I feel like it had, as most personal stories do, like they can segue into being very applicable for especially for racing, right? We always talk about on race day, everyone likes to predict how things are going to go, right? You can do everything in your power, right? Your training can go perfect. The weather can be perfect. You can feel perfect. But ultimately, race day comes down to controlling the controllables, right? Two things: effort and execution. That's it, right? So, and that's all that. So, on race day, you could lose your goggles, your wetsuit could rip, you could get a flat tire, right? You could, get caught up in someone else's, in transition and pick up the wrong special needs bag, right? So something always happens on race day, always. No, you very rarely ever have months and weeks, to prepare for this one day. We're not destined to have the perfect layout. And so in order to kind of segue into how you should deal with controlling the controllables, I've talked, at length on multiple podcasts, and so I've been doing this for 6 years, about my sobriety. I've been sober since November 20th. This November, I'll be 9 years sober. And I've been, and for that period, I have always been super diligent whenever I've gone out to eat or hanging out with, at get-togethers, to be very, very specific in making sure I don't pick up the wrong drink, right? It's like almost to like the anal extent of it, like to smell this, taste this, does it have anything? So, but whenever I go out to eat, I'll have a club soda or a soda water with lime, and almost every time, like especially if I'm at the bar, because being around alcohol, fortunately for me, it doesn't affect me, right? It doesn't make me want to drink. But if we order from the bar, you never know. You just never know. And so I always have somebody kind of smell it or taste it, or I kind of look at it just to make sure it's not, doesn't have vodka in it. That was my drink back in the day: vodka and soda water. A whole lot of vodka, not as much soda water, but vodka soda water. So this last weekend, I had some friends coming to town from Iowa, and we're all out to eat. We go to this place that I'm not sure I'm ever going to go back to. But I ordered I looked the waiter in the face, and I said, I'll take a club soda with a lime. And I said, honestly, like, I don't care if it's just a soda water with a lime, whatever. I just like a little bit of carbonation in my drink. So he comes back with everyone else's drink. He didn't come back with mine. That was my first warning, right? My first thing to be skeptical is, all right, okay, if he's waiting to get it from the bar, because honestly, sometimes they do. If they have to wait and get a club soda from the bar, because they just don't have those, back at the soda fountain. About 33 minutes comes later, he rolls on by, and I'm just gonna say it, he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. And so that was kind of like strike two for me. I was like, all right, I got to be really careful with this scenario here. And because I haven't had a single ounce of alcohol touch my lips in close to 9 years. And he brings back I sent you a picture, kind of a short glass with like a blue rim, 2 little stir straws. And my first thought was 100% has alcohol in it. 100%. You don't present the drink like that if it doesn't have alcohol in it, right? You get it in a big cup, because I've been in this place before and it didn't look that way. So I immediately looked over at the table and I said, I guarantee that has alcohol in it. And so I had Allie take a sip, David Finley take a sip, who was with us, and I said, taste it. They both took sips. No, there's no alcohol in there. No vodka. I mean, first things first, like, don't ask people during allergy season to taste anything that might have vodka in it, because if they can't smell, they can't taste. So I said, okay. So I took a small sip and I immediately said, there's alcohol in there. 100%. There is vodka in there. I know there is. And they're like, no, I can't taste it. But my gut said, there's alcohol in it. Don't do it. Don't. So I just pushed it off the middle of the table. I drank water the rest of the time. Anyway, we go on with our dinner and meal. I ask for the ticket, get the ticket, read through, and there at the bottom, Tito's. Tito's, for those of you that don't know, is a vodka. And my heart absolutely sunk. I was both I immediately got up and I walked outside. I was immediately overcome with all kinds of emotions and feelings. I was both like frustrated and irate, for one, and then also just incredibly upset, because I had spent the last, close to nine years making sure I never got close to taking or tasting alcohol. And obviously the intent behind it is the big thing, right? You go out, if you're going to relapse, you go out and you specifically order, you're definitely not going to order a watered down Tito's vodka from a Mexican place. You're going to go ask for like 4 shots of tequila and get down to business. So it's about the intent, right? But I was so frustrated and so mad, for one, because I had to what I thought had controlled all the controllables on my own, and still took a sip, right? I didn't finish the drink. Thank God, right? I didn't finish the drink, because what would have happened, and that would have been honestly the really unfortunate and sad part, would have, if I hadn't gone with my gut and been like, no, I can still taste it. I promise you it's in there. Because if you're an alcoholic, you can smell vodka from like a shark can smell blood in the water. And I would have gotten a buzz for sure after I finished the glass. And so I was immediately had all these, I texted you, I texted a bunch of people I was close to. I was like, oh my God, you can't believe what just happened. And so yes, so you control the controllables. You spend years, days, months, years not doing this, not doing that, only for, because honestly, the waiter comes back to me and I said, dude, why did you give me a Tito's? And he goes, oh, I just assumed, you ordered a club soda with lime. I just assumed you wanted vodka in it. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck is wrong? First of all, who does this? Anyway, I didn't tell him my story. I didn't ask because the manager said, just let me pay the check and let me just get out of this place. And of course, I had all that. I reached out to people in the program, and I was like, I know that doesn't count as a relapse. I know that doesn't, I'm not going to have to like start over and try to get a 24-hour chip. I know all this, but just like an athlete needs to hear from a coach, to state the obvious. And so I reached out to a few people under the program. They're like, no, dude, you're not starting over. Like, in fact, it's a good thing, because, and this is kind of where the script will flip, and I'll talk about and make it relatable to racing in terms of controlling the controllables, is that, you did everything right? You're in recovery. You didn't ask for a drink. You were given one, and you went with your gut, and you knew it was in there, and you stopped. That shows that you're in the right headspace, because a lot of people wouldn't have done that. They'd have been like, oh, free license, right? License to drink, or going back. But instead, you were irate, you were upset, you were disappointed, you had all these things flow through your brain. And then you chose, and then as I started talking through things and feeling things, I thought to myself, man, and honestly, part of me was super frustrated, because I thought to myself, I'm very secure and very strong in my sobriety. But my first thought was honestly what if I'd been like a dude that had like a month, right? It was struggling super bad, and then had took like a big swig of, the vodka soda water, then your day's done. But anyway, so I got back to it, and then as I kind of got further from it, I thought to myself, you know what? It's actually I'm not going to say a pretty cool thing, but it made me feel even more secure and more strong in my sobriety, that I was that pissed off and irritated, but that I did take a sip and I wasn't tempted to do more. I shoved it away, and I couldn't want anything less to do with it. And also it made me feel very, very, very fortunate to be where I am in life, to know that like back in the day, because you know me, vodka soda water was my drink. That was my jam. Like I would drink 4 or 5 of them a day. And to now have that kind of a feeling, right? Like when you accidentally have a sip of one, to have that reaction and to not be tempted and to not want to start drinking again. It didn't even cross my mind. Oh, well, maybe you can drink again. Didn't even cross my mind, which is like kind of one of the mind tricks your body can play and your mind can play on you when you're in recovery. It's like, oh, well, you haven't drank in this long. Like maybe you can now. Like maybe you've changed. And I was the opposite. I was like, now I can't want anything further from it. And it was upsetting. And obviously, like going into the segue of triathlon is, you're going to come to a point in your race where you've done everything right. You've made all the good decisions, right? You've got your bike checked, right? You got your tune up. You know, you got your goggles in the right order. You put your anti-fog on. You got in the water when you want to do everything right. And something's going to happen that's going to kick you in the gut. And you can play the woe is me card. You can whine about it. You can choose to bemoan it. You can pity yourself about it. Because in the moment, you're going to have a strong reaction, because your first reaction is going to be like mine was. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, are you serious with this? Like this whole circumstance, like, because I ended up laughing about it later. I was like, are you serious? Like this is not real life. Like this doesn't happen. And then you can start to turn it and flip the switch and to feel and to think and to project positivity and think next. All right, what can I do? How can I make this into something that's positive? How can I make this into something that is good? This doesn't have to wreck 9 years. It doesn't have to wreck my day even. I just have to feel it. I have to vocalize it, and then I have to get past it. What you don't want to do is grab a hold of it and hang on for dear life. And that is something that so many of us struggle with, not just in racing, but on a day-to-day basis, right? One bad thing happens, we stump our toe, we drop our coffee, whatever it is, we get a bad email and it ruins our day, right? Our reaction is our choice. And that is the same for you on race day. Like as many of you are going through your race week, prep, and you're visualizing, don't meditate and visualize just the perfect race, right? Visualize something going wrong, totally out of your control, right? Because we always read, comments and Facebook thing. This happened to me in race day, and I was irate. And this thing happened to me, and you're like, so you let that one thing derail your whole day. No offense, but that's on you, right? You can still choose to have a good day. And even some of the most accomplished athletes I've ever worked with, their best race of their life, something bad happened, and they just chose to keep going and figure out a way to make it work. So, yeah, it's a weird story, and obviously, like I texted you after it was over, and was honestly just more pissed than anything, and definitely a little bit upset. But you can feel like you can control it all and still be reminded that shit happens, but it's ultimately up to how you respond as to how much that shit's gonna stink or not.
That's really 100%. But I gotta be honest. When you text me that, it's sort of this. Obviously I'm here and for you in any way possible. And it's one of those situations where you feel kind of helpless, but you also know, I think in my gut, I was kind of like, well, obviously, when somebody says something like that to you, it hurts me, but it was obviously more of a thing for you. So I think ultimately what you just said there, everything you said, and it's this thing about how do we find the opportunity in failure or disappointments or things you're upset about or whatever. It's not easy, man. I've thought about that so many times in life. It's like every little situation that comes up, you're always like, where's the positive? And there usually is, but man, that's not easy to do. And in your case, that's why I was so glad you heard that from, people you talk to. That's like, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you did that, because there's a big win there, and there's a big reinforcement and a positive that came out of it. But initially it's so difficult to step back from that. And, one of my things is, and I don't know if this is good or if I suppress things sometimes or whatever, but my thing is just try not to don't think about it or don't overthink it, because the more and you said it, the more you hold on to things, the harder it's going to bug you. And the harder that little niggle is going to bother you if you're just like thinking about it all the time. Just kind of like get into the flow of life again and realize that not everything's the end of the world kind of thing. And how are you going to spin this so it can be a positive or something you can grow from? And so, I'm just really actually kind of relieved to hear you say that, because I texted you the next morning. I'm like, how you doing? You know, because you're in the mystery like I am. You know, I don't know if you're like raging all night and just pissed off, which I didn't think you were by any means, but I wanted to check in with you. And, you know, that's the thing, right? It's like, I've seen that so many times on the course too, where people will, you know, whatever, you know, maybe get a penalty at the end of the day, and you got to sit in that, you know, tent right away from, you know, 100 yards from the finish line or whatever it is. And then people come out and have a great race. You know what? Maybe they just gave their legs the rest they needed to kind of get back into run form or whatever, you know. So it is something like that. I mean, things aren't going to go perfect, but how are you going to get through it is always the big question. And, you know, you got through that. It sounds like it's, you know, spun you around in a good way. And, you know, there's just so many opportunities, I think, to do that. And I always talk about how you're going to keep sucking it up. I talked about when I used to play competitive softball and we travel around, and if you lost your first game, you know, there's a lot of times when you play maybe like 7 games, you know, 5 in a row or something like that in the losers bracket and shit like that. And I always say that's one of the things that trained me to be a, you know, a strong triathlete, to someone who can, because we had to keep getting up and running out to our position. I mean, it was like over and over and over all day in the hot sun, and, you know, it's dusty and it just sucks. But that's what Ironman racing is to me. It's like, it's not pretty, man. You got to figure out how you're going to find something inside you to get through whatever's bugging you or whatever is annoying you or whatever the issue is at hand. And I think it's an excellent example of that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it is, it's, we're all gonna have something shitty go down on race day. You don't feel great to start, right? It's something, your stomach's messed up. You gotta pee, you know, your goggles leak and whatever it is. Like, but you gotta find a way to spin it, even if you're lying to yourself, right? Because I had a million thoughts going in my head. I was like, God, do I have to start over? Right? Am I gonna pick up my 9-year chip in November? Now I got to start over and like get a 24-hour and like, God, that seems like such a long time. Then my immediate thought was, I mean, yeah, that'd be disappointing, but honestly, would that change anything I do in my day-to-day life? No. Right? It's like, It wouldn't make me start drinking again. It would just be kind of like frustrating to like have to start over again, because it's time. And it's just, I mean, the chips are important and they are very much important because it shows other people that it's possible. But for me personally, it's like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't my fault. It happened. And the biggest thing is that my mind didn't go the other way, which was, well, you did it, right?
Right.
Maybe you just keep doing it, right? And play that trick of like, because a lot of alcoholics struggle with that. Is like, you had one sip, it didn't phase you, you didn't change. Maybe you can start drinking again, right? Because that's always the devil on the shoulder. Is like, see, you're fine, you can handle it. You just one is just fine. But I was so far the other direction. I was like, oh my gosh, like it's totally opposite. But it's the heat of the moment, and it's how you respond. It's not always about just twisting things to be, you know, kind of naively, whimsically positive. You know, you can be almost kind of like, you know, I'm veering this shit in the right direction, whether you like it or not. And that's kind of where I got home, and I was also like, I look at Hayden, I was like, you know what? I was like, he has no idea about any of this, right? Because honestly, if I drank, I probably wouldn't even have him, you know. And you go through your mind of all these things. You're like, you know, I'm going to force this into being something really, really, really. You can't make anything good, right? A moment happens, and it's a moment, right? On race day, the moment happens, this happens, it's done, it's gone. Because the next thing that happens, it's coming at you. But what you can do is how you prepare to take on the next, your mentality going forward. You can choose to sulk, you can choose to, you know, whine and whimper your way through the course and be the, you know, like our podcast earlier this week about, you know, the person who kind of like, you know, safeguards themselves with, you know, some with some excuses before the race. You can go ahead and make excuses during the race on why your race went to shit, or you can start making up reasons why you're not done and you're not finished yet. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to make, you know what? This happened? Be damned. I'm going to find a way to get this race done no matter what. 1 flat tire, 2 flat tire, 3 flat tires, whatever it is, right? Your stomach's upset. Go to the restroom, get back and finish it. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And that was kind of the lesson in perfection is nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect. At some point, that was kind of the message I got from the friends in the program, is like, at some point in your life, it's going to happen. Right? You're going to pick up a chocolate with brandy in it. You're going to pick up the wrong drink at a party. If you're sober for a long, long time, it's going to happen. But it's not about how it happened. It's about the why behind how it happened. And if you weren't responsible for it, then it's just unfortunate. Right? But it could have been the opposite. It could have been, I was having a bad day. I wasn't in my recovery, and I decided to specifically get in my car and drive up to this place, sit at the bar and say, I'll take 2 tequila shots and a vodka soda water. That's a whole different ballgame, right? And so when you get on your race course or the week of race week and something happens, just remember, right? We control our attitude after an action happens, right? Our reaction is our responsibility. You always have a choice. Always, no matter what. You have a choice on how you feel, how you respond, and then what you do with it. You can grovel in it. You can make your excuses, because that's become like an accepted symptom of society, is how much we will just absolutely death grip a hold of a bad day or a mistake or an obstacle or a bad circumstance, and just use that as long as we can until it runs out, and then we'll grab a hold of the next one, right? Or it can be the opposite, right? My favorite book from Ryan Holiday, Obstacles the Way, is you can use things to make you stronger, to make yourself more resilient, right? And that's how you have to go in to race day, right? Not predicting the perfection, right? But practicing resiliency. And if that can be, anything that we're going to leave you with headed to race day, or any race, from a sprint or 5K to, a marathon to an Ironman, whatever it is, shit's going to go down. But you don't have to go down with it, right? You can just let it pass through, keep your mental game, keep the resiliency, and spin it. Laugh it off, right? Sometimes that's like the best thing you can do for things. It's just, and we've all had those days, right? We're in a pretty good space, and one bad thing happens, and then something bad, and you're just like, oh my God, I really can't believe this is happening right now. Like, you just kind of laugh it off, and it's funny because I think it's our psyche's kind of way of protecting ourselves, because it's like, okay, dude, if this guy has one more bad thing happen, it's gonna get bad. So you kind of laugh it off, but it's funny because when you do that, you're automatically in a better mood, right? It's an additional bad or negative experience happened, but you instead just kind of like chose to kind of like, grit your teeth and naively smile your way through it and laugh just to laugh. And then 20 minutes later, you're on with your day, instead of being like, oh, OMG, you're never going to guess what happened to me. And then you text 50 of your friends, and then all you're looking for is like, and you hang on to it for like a week. Like, that's no way to live, and it's no way to race. Okay. So get your mind right, get ready to roll, and, have good friends that have better nasal passages than some, to make sure you check your club soda.
Yeah, really. It's like, kind of what that boils down to really is, we just take ourselves so seriously sometimes, and we all do it. I do it. I mean, we're big time triathletes. We're going out there to do Ironman and shit like that. And if something goes wrong, it's like, well, my name on the ledger is not going to be as high as it should be because I'm actually better in whatever, you know what I mean? It's like,
yep.
And I get that way too, but I think we just like to talk about it and get it out there, and kind of hope to remind ourselves that, I like that laugh it off, because it's kind of absurd. It's like, we do things like this, and, we're just like steaming because our mile per hour isn't like 0.2 higher or something like that because of whatever. And it's like, nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares. They just want to see you finish. They want you to be happy, and they want you to hang, if they want to hang around people with good attitudes, that are able to kind of see the light in things like that. So good story, man. I think it's a good analogy, and it's time to put it to work. double time.
Put it to work, double time. That's all we got today, as always. Yeah, listen, we love you. We appreciate you always tuning in, and thanks for bearing with us as we shorten things up a little bit on our race week. But like we said before, put a little PTO in for the podcast this week. We have some overtime minutes we're going to cash in, as we are right now. Hope to see a lot of you in Madison the next day or two. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for coaching the rest of this year, even in 2023, click on our coaches tab, find the one that's right for you. As always, if you need anything from Mike, he's available. At CrushingIron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. I'll see you a little bit later for dinner.
All right, dude. See you, buddy.